Okay, so the next step in the process would be research. I'm going to go through this really briefly. You guys have done a research module first year. I know it's a long time ago, but you did do quite an extensive research module. So essentially, I want to discover something new. Types of research. What types of research do you have?
Primary and secondary.
Primary and secondary, qualitative and quantitative. So essentially, primary research is where I'm posing a brand new question for my brand that hasn't been answered before. How would I conduct? What types of primary research can I conduct?
Surveys. Interviews.
Interviews, surveys, questionnaires, focus groups. Okay, you guys have an understanding of research. An element of your research will also be secondary. So accessing information that already exists, that doesn't particularly answer your question, but then how does it help me?
So that you don't go looking out for the same kind of...
That's been found out before.
Been found out before, that's answering a different question, but that might link into your research. What types of secondary research would I conduct? Get a question?
Do we actually get access to the research that the company has done?
You've never had that before. I'm sure you could ask for it if it's leading in a particular direction.
Okay.
That could form part of secondary research. So published statistics like census information, academic texts, media, personal documents. So like here, maybe you might look for something that the company's done previously, because some companies do conduct their own research. We'd obviously need to see if you ask for something specific, whether the company is willing to provide that information to you. What would I use census information for? Let's say I access the census information. Why would I need it? Why would I use it? Demographics. What type of people live in certain areas? Where do they shop? What do they buy? Income levels, educational, and being able to look at a specific target group. Yeah? So, with regards to research, you always start by understanding what am I trying to achieve? What is the purpose of this research? What is the ultimate objective? If you don't understand this, then does it matter? Are you going to end up in the right place? And that's the whole thing. What am I trying to achieve? What information am I trying to discover? So what is it that I want to know? Do I want to know what consumer perceptions are? Do I want to know why consumers purchase this brand of motor vehicle as opposed to this brand of vehicle? What am I trying to achieve? What am I trying to discover? This then leads you to discover what are the right questions, what are the right things that I need to ask to achieve that. So if I don't know what I'm aiming for, how can I possibly pose the right questions? How can I then also decide who the right people are to ask? Who's my target market? How big does my sample need to be? How do I probe to get insights? So essentially, it's not just about finding information or getting findings out of your research, it's finding that. Because that helps to lead me in a particular direction. How do you probe to get an insight? What's an insight?
You ask the right questions.
The right questions, and then you?
I think, sorry, I think maybe that would be where qualitative research would work, because then you'd be asking the questions that lead, the open-ended questions that lead
Absolutely. So,
deep answers.
why? How do you do that? How do you behave in a certain way? Why do you buy that brand as opposed to this brand? Until you get to a point where you go, oh, now I understand why people do what they do. Now I understand why you buy this car as opposed to this car. It's finding out something about your target market or the consumers that you're talking to that you didn't know before. Any question?
I was going to say that sometimes, because consumers don't know what they want, sometimes the insight is not in them explicitly answering the question.
Absolutely.
It will be something that you observe while
And
it's something that they're not conscious of.
so often it's a very deep down fundamental reason why I do the things I do that I may not even be conscious of. And the only way that you're going to find out is by probing, by asking me, but why do you do that? Why do you shop in this particular mall? Why do you, so for example, why do you shop at Hyde Park as opposed to Sandton? Because it's got cool boutique stores. Because maybe I'm looking for a particular type of goods because I want to be seen in a premium environment. But why? Why does a premium environment matter to you? And you probe and you probe, and maybe you find out that actually I shop at Hyde Park because I feel safer than I do in Sandton. Does that make sense? It doesn't make sense if I say to you, well, Hyde Park is more premium than Sandton. But if I probe, I might, and then you think, okay, so why is safety an issue? Why is it important? That's an insight. That's something that you didn't know. Does that make sense? Okay. Important thing about research. Please, guys, always summarize and compile your research in one document. Why is this important? Prevent loss of information, yes. So there's 7 of you on your team, and you've all gone and done a set of questionnaires, so now you've got 50 sets of questionnaires with all different responses. And then what? What do I need to do with that information?
You have to analyze it.
I've got to analyze it. How do I analyze 50 sets of separate documents?
You go through each and every one and then compile the research.
So this is important for me to compile. Let's say I use Excel as a medium for which I'm going to compile this. I put everything that I have, all my data, into one place. What does that help me do?
So you're
Yeah,
always
so-
the same time.
All at the same
Yeah.
point?
And I was going to say it also helps you organize the information in that you can have a visual sort of representation of
Absolutely. So I have a big picture view
Yeah.
of what's happening.
Yeah, and besides, it allows you to pinpoint exactly the points that you want and not be all over the
It
place.
helps me to see the trends and the patterns. How do I see the trends and the patterns if I've got 50 sets of separate documents and I don't know what's going on? You must, this is one step that a lot of groups miss. You must compile your data. Don't bring it on 6 pieces of flip chart paper and now I'm going to try and pinpoint. Maybe Word works better than Excel, but compile it in some format to allow you to see where the insights are, the gaps, the trends, the patterns. Okay? And essentially, it will not emerge otherwise, and it might actually, you might see a gap or a pattern that leads you to think, okay, this is important, I need to find out more information about that particular aspect, which means you might need to do more research. Speak to those people again or whatever. Okay. Examples of research. Going to shopping malls, talking to people, Facebook, observing people and marking their behavior against a set of questions, focus groups. You need to decide what type of methodology is going to work for your brief and your brand.
And also, I think, depending on the target market.
Absolutely. So some people might prefer sitting in a group, focus group with some coffee and sandwiches and with a like-minded group of people. Other people are like, listen, I'm in a hurry, dude, can you just ask me 5 questions? And some people don't want to be involved at all. So you observe what they do through, not stalking, but through observation. Okay.
Is that what it's called nowadays?
It's called observation. Okay, questions on research?
So then, what happens if you've got the research, but as a group you don't find any insights, or you don't see anything that's sort of fresh from the
Okay.
research?
So what you then do is you compile all of your findings together, and you need to prioritize your findings so that you understand, out of my 200 findings, these are the ones I want to work on. And maybe from there you probe to get insights. We do sometimes have groups that don't present insights because they're unable to find them or they can't see them in the research that they're presenting. So we have had a couple of groups where they're presenting findings and we're like, hey, that's an insight. Did you notice that you actually had an insight? Okay, and that comes from, so sometimes, yes, you will pick it up and sometimes you won't. But we will help you through that process as well. And not all groups will present insights. I'm going to talk about